What's up, and welcome to another edition of the Morning Lifter podcast, hosted by two smart men who love dumbbells. We cover all things strength and leadership. This is episode 9. Shawn, what is up?
How are you, Bryce?
I'm living the dream, prepping for a PR run this afternoon, looking to go super long. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, that's great, man. You've been really killing it with this running, and your goals have been. You've actually been outpacing yourself.
Yeah, well, the adrenaline's going to fade, so that's what we had to get out to a hot start. So,
still in that honeymoon phase?
Yep, we'll come back to reality here in a bit. So, what's up with you? How have you been?
I've been good. Just doing my thing, I guess. Continuing on, and I just built I sent you that picture. I built a barbell rack.
Oh, it is a hell of a rack.
Along my wall. Yeah, that thing's from floor to ceiling. And it's only going to fit 4 bars. It's all just. I started running out of space on my vertical bar storage with those specialty bars.
Yeah, well, they're tough to put on the vertical storage too because they're so awkward. So,
well, especially the camber bar. That one was the hardest.
Yeah,
because I actually had to mount a hook to prevent it from leaning over, and I just got to the point where I've been using the specialty bars more and more, and it just got to the point where I had to do something.
Right, absolutely.
So
cool.
It's a nice solution. So
yeah, hope it works out for you. You know, your basement's only so big, right? So.
Well, that's right, but at least I took some. I was able to move stuff off the floor, so I saved a little bit of floor space that way. So
that's what's up. So we're back. Just want to recap for the dozens of listeners that we have tuning in. You can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube across our major platforms there. So you can tune in pretty much anywhere. And we have a super cool new addition to the Morning Lifter store on the website. Flags are in stock and are able to be ordered. Why don't you tell the listener, Shawn, how to do that, since it's a little bit of like a custom process?
Yeah, the flags are custom ordered, so it's going to take about 2 to 4 weeks to get them in. We order them through Flag Nation, but you can custom design them. Anything related to the Morning Lifter stuff. If it's a logo that you want on a shirt, you just once you go to the checkout, you just have to tell me what you want and put it in the description box, and then I'll send you out a draft, and then you approve the draft, and then we'll order it, and we'll be set to go. So I think it'll be a nice addition for basement, dorm room, apartment,
living
garage,
room.
whatever.
Yep. Mine's going in the living room, right in the center of my living room.
Right.
Perks of being a bachelor.
So whatever you want to use them for, but it's just a nice, fun addition. So
yeah, absolutely. Another piece of the customization process for the home gym lifters, whether it be garage or basement, like you said. So
yeah, and cool. that's really where the big target is.
I'm looking forward to getting mine and seeing how cool they are, and anxiously awaiting it to arrive in the mail. So should be coming up soon. It was a couple weeks ago we did that. So
yeah, that should be.
All right. So to dive into today's episode, we actually teased this one way back when in I think it was episode number 2, we talked about modern, nutritional / dieting practices, and we touched on the ketogenic diet. And I stopped you from getting too far into your experience on that episode, Shawn, because I wanted to do a whole episode on your specific experience with the keto diet, because you have an incredible success story with it in terms of your body recomposition, your body transformation. And today I really want to dive into the practicality and the realisticness of the keto diet. So more like your experience, how it felt, things like that, to get into, if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I have a bunch of questions here I want to ask you. Before we get into some of that stuff, though, just basic recapping of the ketogenic diet. So in the absence of carbohydrates that your body uses for fuel, your body will break down like adipose fat tissue into these fatty acid ketones, and these ketones can then be used for energy in your body's metabolism. So that's about as scientific as we're going to get today. Everything else is going to be mostly about feel and experience. So, Shawn, when did you start doing this? Was this like right after college, right after your football career, etc.? Like, what was the timeline here?
Well, I mean, this is what's interesting, is that when I was doing this, I didn't know I was doing it, if that makes sense. And so all of this was based off of very raw trial and error. But I also had a lot of time. So I was still in college. I just gotten done playing football, and I've decided that at 320 some odd pounds that I was tired of being at that weight. So what I had decided to do, and this was late May of 2009, I decided that I had wanted to be 230 pounds by Christmas, and I worked backwards. So I figured out how much weight I had to lose, each week. And I started tracking all of my calories. I started tracking what I ate, but I did it in a pyramid. It was a reverse pyramid. So I would start with, just for the sake, let's say 3,000 calories on a Sunday, right? And then I would reduce by 100 calories every single day. And then I would give myself one day of a cheat meal, one day to kind of just recoup, right? And so, you'd start at 3,000 and then go 29, 28, 27, 26, 25. And then you'd recoup. And then the following week, like let's say if Sunday's your first day back, right? The previous week I had 3,000 calories. Well, then the following week, I'd go down to 2,900. Okay. So I continued just reducing calories. Yeah. So I continued just reducing the calories, all the while keeping my protein at a consistent 235 grams, because that's where, roughly that's where I wanted to be. And then I reduced carbohydrates and fat. That's where I had reduced all of my calories. That's where all that was coming from. So, I continued to do that, and the weight started to just shed right off. I mean, the first couple months it was really easy. The real noticeable change was when I was about 280 pounds. You could really see a difference, and I was feeling good by that point in time. But I was also getting up in the morning, and I would go to the gym, and I would do cardio for about 45 minutes. And then I'd go home, go to class, do whatever else I needed to do for that day. And then I'd go back to the gym at night, and I would lift. So I would do my strength training in the evening. And so I did that on a cycle for pretty much 7 months straight. But as the weight started to fall off, it began to get harder and harder and harder as the calories started to dip more and more and more. And so then that meant my cheat meals got more elaborate. It was more of a cheat day, really. That's what it was. Right. And it was longer. Towards the end there, it was pretty extreme with my cheat day. I remember specifically one day in my little studio apartment, getting up, and it was at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I made an entire box of pancake mix.
Oh my goodness!
I ate the entire box. I made pancakes and I ate the entire box, and that took about an hour and a half. And after I was done eating, I crawled back in bed and went back to sleep. I went into a carb coma, and that was kind of the routine. I felt like hell the next day because of the amount of water weight I had gained, but I knew that provided me enough energy, going forward throughout the rest of the week. But I was so focused on the goal because it had been so long since I had been that weight. I was to the point of obsession, and I was tracking. That really helped me learn how disciplined that somebody could be. So when we talk about like strength and leadership, the ability to stay so focused on a goal that nothing gets in the way of it, that's where I was. I was really in a zone where I couldn't be touched. No temptation got in the way. It was really wild. I hit, I think I was at 232 on Christmas. But
that is just insane. That's super aggressive,
Yeah, I mean, you're talking 90 pounds or 100 pounds, depending, in 7 months. So it was a pretty drastic weight loss.
Also borderline unhealthy amount of weight to lose in that time. Just throwing it out there as a disclaimer.
Yeah, it towards the end there, it got to the point where I was at 1,800 calories a day, and it was really, really hard to live.
So what made you decide on maybe doing like a modified keto just apart from, like regular diet and exercise? Or did it start as, like regular diet and exercise and then you moved into like really drastically cutting carbs? Or what was the thought process there? Like, did you know you were like set out to do keto right off the bat, or?
No, I probably didn't know until about 3/4 of the way through. When I started to do more research, like I said at the beginning, it was all trial and error. It was just a matter of losing weight. And so I just started to do my own research and try to figure out what I needed to do because I didn't know anything. I was straight out of college where everyone had told me what to do. Like you need to lift this amount of weight, you need to run this far, you need to do this, and so now I'm out into, the world by myself. And so I've got to figure it out. So as I went through the process, I just continued to do what worked. I found something that worked. And, I knew that if I wanted to continue to lose the weight, I had to keep reducing what I was eating. And it really comes down to just calories. That was the closest I'd ever gotten to a 6-pack, but it wasn't one of those things that it's not like I said, well, I'm going to do the keto diet. Well, I had no idea what in the hell that was. I was not as educated then as I am now about a lot of the different diets. And, there was no carnivore diet in 2009. There were, all the different diet fads, that just didn't seem to be as popular, but I had found something that worked, and so I was just consistent with it. But I kind of figured it out towards the end once I had done a little bit more research, understanding, okay, my carbohydrates are very, very, very low, but it wasn't even very like a true keto because I also kept my fat content just as low, which so, and that's why, and people who are listening to this were going to say, well, of course you had no energy. You had no energy source.
Yeah, no shit, right? That's how that works.
Well, you're exactly right. I know that now, but when you don't know what you're doing, so I just wasn't educated. But I was losing the weight, so for me, I was saying, hey, I'm losing all this weight. I think I'm going to continue doing that. When you've been a certain way, your entire life, or most of your life, that's where you see some people, like you and I have talked about this, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you're going to do whatever it takes to not be sick and tired anymore. And that's kind of where I was, But then once I had accomplished the goal, once I had gotten down there, that's when, I had gained a little bit of weight back, and I had slowly reintroduced carbohydrates back into my diet, and what a shock, I had gained some weight. But I guess the experience, I don't think I would change because it really showed me what, I could do, but it also showed how much work was really required, and you can't, anything that's worth doing is going to take time.
Right, absolutely. And I think you hit on a really important part there. You were like, when you're talking, you just worried about the calories. You just worried about that end goal, that number on the scale. You didn't really care how you got there. And this saying that I'm about to say gets a lot of hate for a person who made it infamous, but the end justifies the means, right? You have your eyes set on that goal. That's all that mattered to you, right? And you said it yourself. You were going to stop at nothing to get there, which is actually awesome, like to be able to set your sights on something so huge and to be able to accomplish it on such an insane time schedule and under the circumstances that you did says a lot about you as a person, your character, and all that stuff. And is the reason why I was so interested in, helping out with morning lifter in the first place. So,
well, I'm definitely proud of what I was able to accomplish by, but I also, I lost all of my strength. I was a weakling. If I had to go back and go through that same process again, I don't know if I would do it that way. I might do it a different way.
Well, you also know more now too, like you said, so you could go about it a little bit more methodically.
Right. Hindsight's always 20/20,
sure.
right? So, but, nonetheless, I'm still proud of the fact that, it shows that anybody is capable of doing anything if they're that determined to actually go through the process. So I had, but I had written down everything. And so I saw everything that I needed to do for every single day, and that was kind of my motivating factor behind it. And so I was just really, really careful. I was really, really careful about what I ate. And it was just kind of like what you and I were talking about earlier today. It's like that's what some bodybuilders go through, is how they cut their diets and they go to the extreme measures. But I was doing that over a 7-month process. And so it's for me, I found out very quickly after I had reached my weight that it wasn't sustainable.
Right.
I couldn't stay eating 1,800 calories every day.
So that brings me to my next question, was the way that fat uses energy in the body is a little bit different than the way carbohydrates uses energy, in that you mentioned the carnivore diet beforehand. So Joe Rogan actually was on the carnivore diet starting in January of 2020, and he said after a month he felt like his energy was more sustained throughout the day because the fat metabolism works a little bit differently. You don't get the highs and lows and things like that. So what were your energy levels like before you got down to basically the protein sparing modified fast portion of your diet? In the process where you're still eating fat and maybe just dropping the carbs, what were your energy levels like?
Early on I still had good energy. That wasn't necessarily the problem, but I also, the first couple of days after my cheat day, I had pretty good energy. But let's say my cycle was Sunday through Friday, right? And Saturday was the cheat day, for example. Mm-hmm. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday was pretty good. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it was a pretty sharp decline. By Friday, I was irritable and exhausted. So, as the fat and the carbohydrates reduced more and more and more, it was harder and harder and harder to keep going. And that's where I started to just sleep more. And I didn't really want to be doing anything else other than just working out and training to help, stay in that negative deficit.
Right.
Because, I had gotten it into my mind that I needed more protein than anything else, which, I didn't, like I said, I didn't have as much knowledge then. So I was doing all of this based on experience and just based on more so the scale. As I had reduced, what I should have done to probably help myself was had a midweek carb, not necessarily carb load, but maybe a carb
refeed almost. Yeah,
a refeed. That's a good way to put it. Like on that Wednesday evening, had a refeed. Maybe I double or I triple the carb intake. Because I was at one point, towards the very end, I was at about 25 grams of carbs.
Yeah. For those that don't know, a refeed is when you just, you still maintain your diet, you don't go full on cheat day, but you just throw in maybe an extra 50 grams of carbs or 100 grams of carbs, whatever it may be, just to, as Shawn's saying, is just boost your mood a little bit, give you a little bit more energy, and just maybe a little extra pep in your step to get you through the hard phases of the diet.
Those, from the days that I remember, those were the tough days. It was going to bed and just feeling like you were starving and feeling miserable. And I was, man, towards the end. And some people, you can be on the keto and do great, but but like I said, I had reduced my energy source to practically nothing. So now, the protein was taking some of that, using that as energy as well, but I just wasn't getting enough, And so while I was still losing the weight, like you had said, it wasn't probably the best way to go about it.
Yeah, but hindsight's always 20/20, like you said.
Right. and I think what I became out of it is more important than what happened.
That's an excellent way of putting it, and really well said. Like, you are who you are today because of that experience you went through for those 7 months, like, for sure.
Right. Like, I fall back on a lot of that sometimes in terms of setting goals, pushing through a goal, you know, especially like on a personal level.
Yeah.
You know, like that's like just being able to reflect on it and think to yourself, like, you know, when you can tell somebody, yeah, I dropped 90 pounds in 7 months, you know, it's like the David Goggins story, only I didn't go through SEAL training, Marine training, and everything else under the sun.
Probably didn't give yourself, like, life-threatening kidney damage or, you know...
Right.
Well, maybe you did. We don't know.
But, you know, it's something that I'm still proud of. And, you know, what you should do is you should arm yourself with information, you know. Arm yourself with information and know how to do it the right way. But it can be done. You know, there's still lots of stories of people doing it. Keto can do a lot of really good things for people if you do it correctly, I think. But for me, like some people, like just like the intermittent fasting thing, for some people you can find something and maintain. That's the most important thing is finding that right balance. Like for me, that wasn't it. That was more of the method to get me to the end result. You know?
Right.
And then finding a way to stay in a happy medium after that. And I was able to. It's still been good. I've been able to keep the weight off, and I put a little bit back on, but it's obvious it's been muscle, you know, and so I have a little bit more respect for, you know, what I put in my body and what energy is going in versus going out, things like that. So
that's good. That's all good. So you mentioned you got down to about 25 grams of carbs per day at the end. So I just wanted to throw out some comparisons for people to know what 25 grams of carbs looks like. I have four items here. So one is a 12-ounce can of Coca-Cola soda, the original, has 39 grams of carbs. One Hershey's chocolate bar, the original, just plain milk chocolate, has 26 grams of carbs. Multigrain whole wheat multigrain bread has anywhere from 11 to 20 grams of carbs per slice. And then an apple, regular, like Red Delicious, whatever you want to call it, has between 20 and 30 grams of carbs, depending on the size of the apple, obviously. And, you know, fiber affects that different ways too. And bananas have, on average, about 25 grams of carbs per banana. But there's also fiber with bananas too, all fruits. But so 25 grams of carbs, like next to nothing. I don't think people understand that. You look at, you know, people don't quite get the mental picture of what 25 grams of carbs looks like. It's not a lot.
No.
It's not a lot.
No, it isn't. And that's what made it so much more difficult because I love carbs.
Oh, me too, brother. Me too. So at what point were you like, okay, I need carbs again? Like, I'm ready to rock and roll. Was it like hitting the number on Christmas or?
Yeah, I mean, it was right after, you know, it was pretty much right after I had achieved my goal. I kind of reintroduced myself back into some things, you know, and I had maintained my weight right around 240, you know, 250 I had gotten a little bit heavier. But
and this is in like the maintenance period then, like the post-diet maintenance?
Yeah.
You were at like 240, 250?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, it took me, what else was really difficult too was trying to find a healthy balance. You know, that was the hardest part, trying to find a healthy balance of making sure I was staying within my range and to not, you know, I didn't want to lose all the weight and then have it blow all the way back up.
Right, of course.
You know, and that was where I was concerned. So it was trying to find out what my body could handle, you know, versus what I was putting in my mouth. So that's where I had, I guess, some learning. I had a lot of learning to do with that, you could say.
Well, it's tough too, because even if you take away like carbs, fats, proteins, even certain foods can trigger an inflammatory response within individuals, or might feel better than others and things like that. So, even on that aspect too, and not to mention with the body recomposition, you obviously lost a lot of body fat. You can notice a difference more so when you were 230, 240, 250 as opposed to 320, right? You can actually see the change like going on in your body and feel the, a little inflammation, or if you're bloated real hard or something like that too. So
right, yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think the other thing that's important to understand is not everyone, like, to get a six-pack, to get that definition is extraordinarily hard, and that's why you don't see, and part of that's genetics too, I think. For some people it is easier to get than others.
So, yeah, I totally agree. When you say it's genetic, I just want to make sure the listeners understand. So there are two components to the whole genetics thing, and one is that where your body stores fat on it, right? So some people are more predisposed to store body fat in your midsection, or like in your ass or in your thighs, or in your arms for that matter. So you can get lucky and not store a lot of fat in your midsection. That'll make it easier to have visible abs, obviously. And two is that your abs actually can take a couple different shapes. I believe like there are a couple different orientations of how the muscles overlay with each other. I think that might be a little bit of bro science coming out. But basically not everybody's abs look the same. You even see that with people who have six packs. Like they don't all look identical. So two components that go into what makes, when someone says like, oh, abs are genetic, like that's what they mean. But abs are overrated, right?
I guess it depends on who you're talking to.
All I'm saying is Eddie Hall, world's strongest man, has a world record in the deadlift, can lift 500 kilograms, 1,100 pounds. I don't think he is a six-pack. No.
But again, that goes to changing goals. Do you want to be super strong, or do you want to just be super cut? But it's all about what you decide you want. Like right now, I decide I would rather be stronger than to look leaned out and everything else. So I'd rather have a little bit more size, and when we go on vacation, maybe I'll change that. Maybe I'll work to lean out a little bit. I don't know, but just understanding calorie deficit versus calorie surplus. The more you understand about that, the better decisions that you can make.
100%. So how did this super strong diet, super strict calorie deficit affect like your normal social life? Did it make it hard to go like out to eat with Allie's your wife now? I'm pretty sure y'all were together back then, right?
Yeah.
But did it make it difficult to like spend time together and do date nights and stuff like that, or like go to eat? And did you have to like make separate meals? Like, what was that like?
Going out to eat wasn't too difficult. You just had to know what you couldn't eat, and so she would say, hey, do you want to go out to eat somewhere? I'd be like, that's fine, I just need to know where. And once we had decided on a place, then I could do my research, and I would work backwards. I would take my given calories. Let's say I had 2,000 calories, and then I would look at what I was going to order, and I would subtract that from my calorie total for the day. And then I knew I had, let's say, a meal was 750 calories at dinner. Okay, well then I have to just work backwards, and I've got 1,250 left for that day, right? And so I just worked backwards so that I knew what I had to keep for dinner time. But she might eat dessert and I wouldn't, or I used a book called Muscle Chow, and that really helped me. I had a muscle building cookbook that I used to cook a lot of my meals and understand more about nutrition and how to properly prepare things, and make little desserts or whatever the case may be, to try to help get leaned up to a good level. So that really helped me as well. But going out to eat wasn't necessarily difficult. It was just understanding how many calories you had to spare.
Like anything, you just have to have a plan, right?
Right.
That's good stuff. What would you say? So anybody looking to go like keto, or even we'll expand it from keto. I know we're probably going to call that the title of this episode. We might change it. Anybody who's thinking about doing a serious body recomposition lifestyle change, what would you say to someone looking to do that specifically? Words of advice, I guess.
I think the best thing to do is to do it one day at a time. You know, I had my ultimate goal, but I couldn't go from 320 to 230 overnight. So I mapped out every single week. So, and I had calorie goals for every single day for that week. You know, so when I was making those progressions or regressions from, 3,000 to 29, 28, 27, I knew, okay, well, tomorrow I'm going to be down to 2,700 calories. The next day it's going to be 2,600 calories, So I had a goal for every single day. And when you have a goal for every single day, you're eventually going to see small improvements, and then those small improvements will become big improvements. And then those big improvements will be you reaching the ultimate goal. And that was really the only way I was able to do it, was to I kept everything in a very short-term window.
Makes sense. It goes back to the goal setting, right? We talked about that on a previous episode. Is that
right?
Set the big overarching goal, but you have to have short-term goals that'll eventually lead to the long-term goal.
You've got to plan it out. You've got to organize it. Then you got to lead through it and control it. I mean, those are the basic steps of like business management. You got to plan, organize, control, and lead. And if you can do those four things, and you can complete that task. Yeah.
One more question, I guess, before we wrap up the keto/diet talk and move into the next topic of the episode. What were you said your energy levels were in the shitter, obviously, right? You're only taking in 1,800 calories a day.
Right.
Almost no carbs, almost no fats in a protein-sparing modified fast. What'd that do to, like, your hormones, your mental psyche? Like, how did that affect you? That's gotta suck, right? Like,
it was, yeah. I mean, the mental aspect of it was, towards the end, it was really challenging. And I don't think I had any regressions, but I was moody. I was more irritable. There were days where I would get angry. If I went over slightly, on a calorie per day, I was obsessed, like completely obsessed, to the point where, I couldn't go above what my limits were. And if I did, I felt like I had just blown an entire week, or blown an entire day, So in a way, I put a lot of pressure on myself to try to get this done. So on that aspect, it just, I didn't have any energy. I was in a much crankier mood, but that I was willing to sacrifice that at the time for getting to the end goal, and I guess everything else was be damned at the time,
Yeah, that's a really good point. It kind of sucks sometimes what you have to go through, but what I say, the ladders of success, or the staircase to success is riddled with obstacles and all that, and walking on glass and whatever, and those images and stuff. So that's awesome. For the record, I'm just gonna throw this out there to anybody who might not be a believer. Shawn's ripped at 250 for being 6'5". Just saying, just throwing it out there.
At least somebody thinks that.
I know a lot of people hear these numbers. Well, you hear people with these numbers and they say, like, oh, like, it's real easy to be ripped at 180 or 185 and, like, cut up and stuff. Like, the people you see on social media, it's like, dude, you're 150 pounds. Of course you have eight-pack abs. But you look pretty good for Jack Dad status at 250. That just can't go unnoticed. Had to throw it out there.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, here's the other thing. Like, I want to get some of my numbers up, but I'm also to the point where I don't have anything to prove. I I think it was about a 550 deadlift, 680 squat, and what was my best bench in college? 375, I think, with a torn labrum. So, you know, I mean, those were good numbers, and I have no reason to do that again. But I still want to have, you know, I'd still like to get back up to at least the 5s in the squats, the 5s in the deads. At least, well, I should say the 4s in the squats, the 5s in the deads, and then the 3+ in the bench. You know, if I can do that, I'd be pretty happy. But, you know, I have no reason to, you know, I'm not competing. I'm not a power lifter. I just like to power lift, you know, and for me, that's enough. And I like messing around with specialty bars. So,
of course. Keeps it interesting.
Right.
All right. Any last things or last topics of discussion regarding the diet and body transformation experience that you had before we move into the next topic?
I guess the biggest thing is if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, then plan it out and find a way to get it done. You know, and there are going to be days where it sucks, and there's going to be days where everyone's eating pizza and cake and stuff in their face, and you have to have enough discipline to keep the end goal in mind. You know, Stephen Covey says in the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, those who complete the task start with the end in mind. So start with the end in mind and work backwards.
I like that a lot. It only takes a step in the right direction to completely change your life. All right,
direction determines destination, as Jim Rohn says.
Hell yeah. All right, so coming up, today it's Leap Day, February 29th. A week from today, you will be attending the Arnold Classic, right?
Can't wait.
Super excited. For those that don't know what the Arnold Classic is, wake up out of the cave that you've been laying in. The Arnold Classic is a huge strength and weightlifting expo put on in Ohio every year. For those that don't know, Ohio is kind of like almost a promised land in the United States for strength athletics due to Rogue Fitness. The company Rogue Fitness is based in Columbus. And Westside Barbell, Louis Simmons, who's kind of like the father of modern strength in the United States, was based in, I think, just outside of Columbus. Actually,
yeah, they're not far apart.
Yeah, well, Rogue actually just partnered with Westside to mass produce all of Westside's gear, which is awesome for everybody. But anyway, so Ohio is like the mecca of strength in the United States. So they host this big expo every year. There's a powerlifting competition. There's a strongman competition. Everybody's got a booth. It's like a who's who in like the fitness and strength community. You get to go, super excited. What's the plan?
The plan is to initially the plan is to go down and number one, take it all in. But I also want to see some of the strongman lifts, and I want to take a look at some of the different products. Sometimes you've got brand new product out there, and things that have not been unveiled yet, or new lifting prototypes. So, you know, that's one reason. I also want to go down there just to market and network. But I've got I got a couple of booths that I'm going to visit. I'm going to meet up with a couple people. One being Stan Efferding. I'm getting ready to, next week, I'm dropping the interview that he did with us electronically. There was a question and answer series, so we're going to drop that next week prior to the Arnold Classic, and I'm going to go see him and chat up with him for a little bit. I'm going to go see Zach Mars, who is the inventor of what's called the Mars Bar. If you haven't seen this on Instagram, you should check it out. It is one of the coolest bars, personally, that I have ever seen. And if you suffer from shoulder injuries like myself, this could change the way you squat. So he's going to have a set of bars down there. I'm going to go down there and check out that bar and hopefully be able to come home with one. That's kind of my ultimate goal. But also see what else is down there, if there's any other interesting prototypes to pick up. So, you know, it's really just going to be a matter of marketing, networking, and interacting with, everybody who loves all the same stuff, seeing the powerlifting, seeing there's going to be CrossFit events there. There's just there's so much to do. And it starts on Thursday. I won't be able to go down until Saturday, but I got the fast pass, so I get in an hour early before they open the doors. So that'll be nice.
Worth it, 100%.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt, that's worth it. So I'll leave. It's 2 hours from my house, so I'll leave at 6, get down there about 8, buy myself a little bit of time, and hopefully it won't be too crowded, but just I'll be there all stinking day. So if you're planning on going, you're listening, hit me up on one of the social media platforms, and we can hook up and talk all great things about strength and conditioning and everything else. So it's always a lot of fun. I've gone a couple of times in the past, and there's always great deals too, and you can kind of negotiate yourself through deals too. So because people don't want to take they don't want to take that stuff home, they want to get rid of it. So sometimes you can get good deals with stuff, and it's always fun. I've always enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's sounds really awesome. Bummed I won't be able to make the trip out this year. I know we talked about maybe linking up to do so. Marking my calendar already for the Arnold 2021. You're gonna enjoy it. So in a crowd like the Arnold, I have one last question about the Classic, obviously. In a crowd like the Arnold, if you were to compete in any type of lifting event that they have there, and they've got every single one under the sun, how much do you think you could PR simply from being in that atmosphere surrounded by people cheering you on that stage? Let's take like the deadlift. Let's just say deadlift.
Well, I think just the adrenaline alone, and you see that in the strongman competitions that they have. I saw Brian Shaw a couple years ago.
Those guys are nuts.
He was lifting semi-tractor tires from an elephant bar, and the crowds they have. The guys, you can tell. They just get all juiced up, but even the amateurs, like I go over and I've watched the amateurs, perform Olympic lifting, and you can tell that the energy in the place alone is really, really positive. It's really positive because everybody is there to help cheer on other people. There doesn't really seem to be hey, I can bench more than you or squat more than you. It's like, hey, go lift your ass off and do your thing, and everybody for the most part just seems to be very, very supportive of that, regardless of who's lifting.
Right. It seems like a really just positive vibe all around. Yeah.
Well, because everybody wants to see somebody PR, and if you are PRing your own weight, then that's a great thing. You're not, and in so many ways, that's why strength and conditioning and weightlifting is so great, because you're still competing against yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So obviously I've never been in an atmosphere like the Arnold, but it reminds me from what you just described a lot about the atmosphere surrounding like when I race triathlons. Like everyone just wants to see people do well, right? Like it's just
right.
You're just hype and pumped for everybody. So it seems really awesome. I'm super excited. I can't wait to do the recap episode that follows. So
that'll be fun.
Looking forward to it. We have time for a couple DMs here. Like we'll just go rapid fire. Super quick. I'm guessing the first one's for you because I don't have a kid. What does your child want to be when he or she grows up? I'm assuming it's probably about Wyatt.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 kids, so I don't know. Wyatt's 4, and my daughter Emery is 19 months. So they have literally the entire future in front of them. Whatever they want to be is whatever they decide to be. I've had a lot of people jokingly say, well, are you going to make him play football? And my answer has always been and still is no. If he decides he wants to play, then great. I'm all for that. And if he decides he does not want to, then great. I'm all for that. I'm not going to be one of these parents that forces him to do something just because I did. That's the last thing I want to do. I want him to come to it organically. And if he decides, whatever he wants to do, I just hope that he's successful and excels at it. That's really the ultimate goal, I think, of any parent that they want to see with their kids.
That's what makes you a great dad. We're going to skip this next one because it's requires a longer response than we're going to give right now, more thorough, in-depth. How would you handle tracking alcohol when on a cut, Shawn? The question says, I'm trying to adhere to my diet as best as possible, but I still want to be able to have a social life and enjoy a beer once in a while.
I just don't. We talked about this a little bit during one of our holiday podcasts, and I think the idea is just moderation. Have a couple, but that's it. But you still have to account for those calories. So if you are on a calorie limit, you might need to account for that. So you're going to have to, I guess, pick your beer wisely, whether that or are you drinking liquor. I guess that depends too. But you got to be careful with that, especially. If your calories are already really low, you have a couple beers, you're going to be wired for sound pretty quick. So I think you got to keep that in mind. Towards for myself, towards the end of my diet, I cut out alcohol completely. I wasn't drinking, but I'm also not a super social drinker. Plus, I'm a cheap date, so So for you've just got to make those decisions. What's more important?
Yeah.
Would you rather have a few beers, or are you really hell-bound to get your diet under control? You can maybe wait a couple weeks for the beers. Have some water. You can still go out with friends. It's not like it's a law that you have to go out and drink, but you just got to think. You got to think about what's most important.
Yeah, that's well said. Obviously, it depends person to person basis, right? Like everything you just said, Shawn. It's up to you what you want to do, how you want to decide it. Obviously, you can take a look at just the calories. Like a light beer is 100 calories in it, whatever. If you want to get specific with the tracking in terms of like macros, so carbs are 4 grams a pop, fats are 9, alcohol is 7. So if you take, let's use a 100 calorie beer, cut that in half, 50 calories, and track that as carbs, that would be what, like 4.5? Or 12? Well, 12 and a half, sorry. 4 times 12 is 48, so there's 48 calories accounted for. The other 50, you can divide by 9 and log it as fat and do, which would be like 6, I guess, give or take. So you can log it as, like, divided by, log it as like half of each to get that 7 versus 4 or 9 to more accurately account for the macros, but at the end of the day, personally, I would not worry about it that in depth, but if you want to do so, you're more than welcome to, obviously. Last question here. What do you guys think is the most beneficial workout split?
Arnold was always big on the chest and back. I like that a lot. Your whole upper body just feels like it explodes. I like chest and back a lot, and I like legs and shoulders. Those are 2 of my favorites.
Yeah, those are interesting. I'm not sure if that was like the question was like splits like that, or if it was like push-pull legs or bodybuilding or whatever. I recently got into the chest and back game after usually doing like chest and tries, back and buys. Chest and back is like a whole different level of pump for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've done chest and back for a long time, and you definitely feel different.
Yeah. At the end of the day, obviously the answer is the most beneficial workout split is the one that you choose to follow. The one that's going to get you the best results, the one that's going to adhere to your goals. It would not make sense for a powerlifter 2 weeks out from competing in powerlifting to be doing sets of 10 to 12 reps. It would not make sense for a bodybuilder to be trying to tax their central nervous system to the point of a 1-rep max deadlift a week before they step on stage. So adhere to your goals, follow whatever feels best to you. The best beneficial workout program is the one that works. That's all I have for today, pal. Do you have any closing thoughts on anything we discussed?
I don't think so. I guess the big thing is I'm going to be excited for the Arnold, and this weekend I should be getting a new piece of equipment coming in here, so stay tuned for that on some of my social media outlets, specifically Instagram. It's usually where I post most of that stuff, so keep an eye on that. I'm not going to give it away. You'll have to wait and see.
Blink twice if it's the lat tower.
Yeah, I've already got a lat tower.
Oh, fancy.
Yes. Stay tuned.
Cool. So until next time, guys, keep it strong, keep it safe, be your best you, just be better, and Stay tuned for the Arnold recap.
See ya.